The record overwhelmingly suggests that Gaetz had intercourse with multiple women at the party, and then the 17-year-old that paid them all off. Sounds bad. Matt Gaetz and his attorney, his friend, demands the House Ethics Committee issue a correction immediately and retract their lies. We cross-examined him. We impeached his own lies with his own cell phone records. No, you didn't, you liars. Stop pretending like you're on Law and Order or something, okay? You're just dumb congresspeople. A key Matt Gaetz witness is now demanding a retraction. Remember, the House Ethics Committee, whatever that means, released a report right on the eve of Christmas castigating Matt Gaetz, saying he was a monster in a bunch of different ways and made a bunch of allegations. Now, Matt Gaetz has denied this from the very beginning, and now this person called Chris Dorworth, you may not recognize the name, but he showed up in the report, and he came out right after the report was released, and his attorney, by the way, sent a letter demanding a retraction from the Ethics Committee. Now, we know that they're not going to do that because their mission has been accomplished. It was a political smear. They needed to squeeze it in right before Christmas, so Matt Gaetz couldn't sue to stop the report from coming out. They notified him they would drop this thing, and then they dropped it simultaneously. He sued, but by the time the lawsuit even hit the docket, man, they already released the report because they're cowards and that's how they operate. They dropped it on 12/23 like a bunch of pathetic losers. So his lawyer then sent this letter back over to them, identifying 3 key discrepancies that are problematic, and we'll read through it. But here is what Chris Dorworth said after he showed up in the report. And here is where Dorworth showed up in the report, paragraph 3. It says, Representative Gaetz had interactions with minors that he met through this person called Mr. Greenberg. This is Congress speaking. Numerous witnesses told the committee that on July 15, 2017, Matt Gaetz attended a party at Mr. Dorworth's home. The party was also attended by Mr. Greenberg, Representative Gaetz' then girlfriend at the time, and several others, including Victim A, who was 17 years old at the time. The record overwhelmingly suggests that Gaetz had intercourse with multiple women at the party, and then the 17-year-old that paid them all off. Sounds bad. Now, Mr. Dorworth testified that sounds like Hunter Biden, that Gaetz was a frequent guest at his home. Mr. Dorworth said, he's over all the time. Gaetz is here all the time. Yeah, go have freak-offs all over. You want to come in? Come in. Yeah, please. To enter the community where Mr. Dorworth lives, non-residents are required to present a driver's license before entering, and entry records are even maintained. Now, Mr. Dorworth believed that Gaetz invited people to his home on July 15, 2017. And likewise, Gaetz' then girlfriend provided an affidavit in the civil litigation stating that she and Gaetz attended there at Dorworth's house. Now, the committee received testimony that Victim A and Gaetz had intercourse twice, including at least once in the presence of other attendees. Victim A got $400, that's it, which she understood to be payment for intercourse. Now, at the time, she had just completed junior year of high school, right? And that's illegal, I would imagine, in wherever this happened, Florida. But if that is something that happened. Now, the DOJ presumably investigated this, according to Gaetz, and according to the DOJ, nobody filed charges on this. So it's just Congress smearing him right now. Victim A recall, blah, blah, blah. All right, so Dorworth came out and he says, look, first things first, these people tried to shake us down for money, number one. That's why I sued them in the first place and why this whole thing even started. I've never met these women. I've taken 3 polygraph tests to dispute their baseless lies, and they don't even have their story straight. In fact, they can't say when they arrived, who they left with, or anything consistent. One witness who was there doesn't remember them being there at all. They said I was at a party when I was documented to be 20 miles away on a boat, and Matt Gaetz wasn't on the Gaetz log. Now, these people are liars, says Chris Dorworth, the guy who they're saying said all this stuff. The fact that Congress selectively included this nonsense shows their bias. These are well known to be lies, but Congress doesn't give a crap. The guy behind it all is in jail right now for lying about a political opponent having intercourse with a minor. It's totally BS. This is clearly a congressional hit job. It is painfully clear that these women are lying. This is a shakedown that caught fire because Matt kicked Kevin McCarthy out of his job. This did not happen. Everything they said about me being there and witnessing any of it is a lie. You are watching the swamp go eye for an eye against Matt Gaetz, using liars and felons. I hope America's smart enough to recognize how contrived and untrue this report is. It sickens me to see Congress stoop so low, but I'm not surprised. And that's from Chris Dorworth. Now, he also mentioned this. He says, hey, Representative Michael Gaetz, who was one of the authors of this ethics committee report, says your staff got many key components of my testimony explicitly and provably wrong. This is one glaring example. Please go back and correct the very broken record of my testimony. They got all my stuff wrong, so I hope it makes you wonder about anything else. And this is an interesting thing that happens, right? If you've got one problem, does it taint the whole analysis? You say, you morons couldn't even listen to this guy's testimony and give us an honest presentation of what he did and said. And so if you can't even do it for this witness, why should we trust the rest of the report at all? Saying, interestingly, this person dug this out, Chris Dorworth testified in August 2024 in depositions to the exact opposite of what the report claims. Said Mr. Dorworth believed that Gaetz invited people to his home. This is what the report says. Dorworth says Gaetz invited people to Dorworth's home. Whatever you think of the report, whether it's a weird error or not, but if you get the basic facts wrong like this, that's a problem. Here's part of the transcript. Answer. Back in the day, like the first this ever happened, the first I ever heard of this, he said, no, of course I didn't do that. It was, question to him, was Mr. Gaetz at your house on July 15, 2017? I have no idea. He wasn't on the gate log and I wasn't there. You have never discussed that with him, whether he was there or not? I haven't, no. Oh, well, they just said you did. Well, tell me about your house. Well, it's nice. I got like 6 bedrooms. It's got a nice pool. I like to cook. I'm kind of a chef. I like to make food for my friends. Question. Who invited? Have you been able to discern who invited blank and blank KM to your house on the evening of July 15th? No, I cannot glean that, but I can tell you that the only plausible explanation to that would be Joe Ellicott, who at the time identified her as his girlfriend. And do you know who invited AB to your residence on July 15th? Well, I assume it was KM. Oh, so you believe that Joe Ellicott invited M and M invited B? I mean, that would be my assumption. I don't know. And who invited Ellicott? So he testifies one way. I don't know what happened there. I don't know who got where they went, who came from who. And they changed that into now he's pinning Matt Gaetz with this fraud. And that is obviously with this criminality. And obviously that is not anything that has happened. So this lawyer came out. Matt Gaetz and his attorney, Matt Gaetz's friend's attorney, demands the House Ethics Committee issue a correction immediately and retract their lies. This is the letter. From Moore Hill and Westmoreland, attorneys at law, out of Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and Pensacola, Florida. Writing, Congressman Michael Gaetz, who is one of the authors of the report. This is regarding a retraction of references to Christopher Dorworth in your December 23rd, Eve of Christmas report in the allegations about Matt Gaetz. Writing the following. All right, dear Congressman, our firm represents Christopher Dorworth in a case pending in the Middle District of Florida. Dorworth is referenced in a report from your Committee on Ethics that you inexplicably made public to members of the media before you published it to the general public on December 23rd as part of your hatchet job. Several of your report's findings about my client Chris are inaccurate, and we demand a retraction as soon as possible. Now, at the outset, I'll note that the release of your committee's report is bizarre. Congressman Gaetz is no longer subject to your jurisdiction, and the precedential effect of the release of this report cannot be overstated. Aside from the absurdity of your committee's decision to publish this report, there is no method of simply undoing the harm that you've caused to many innocent Americans who have never been charged with any crimes, but are now being speared and smeared as child abusers. Now, the public has a right to understand why this report specifically should be released when so many previously have been withheld. Below, Ethics Committee, are 3 demonstrably false statements that you made within your report, and I'm writing to you today to demand the retraction of these demonstrably false statements. Now, for your convenience, I've labeled them as discrepancies so that you don't miss them. Here's one. Discrepancy 1. Mr. Dorworth is what you wrote in your little report. You said Mr. Dorworth believed that Gaetz invited people to his home on July 15. Wrong. No. Mr. Dorworth did not and has never believed that Gaetz invited people to his house on July 15th. To support your claim that Gaetz invited people to Chris's home, you cite in a footnote that a gate log does not include Gaetz's name on it, and you reference an affidavit and a deposition transcript that say nothing about Gaetz inviting anyone to my client's home at all. So you just made that up. In fact, contradictory claims that Congressman Gaetz was present at Dorworth's house on a specific date do not support your statement that my client Chris believed anything about Matt, that he was there, or that he invited anyone at all. Now, Mr. Dorworth's deposition transcript does not support at all what you said he said, and it should be retracted immediately. So you guys perverted his testimony in order to create a narrative that benefited you. Now, here's discrepancy number 2 about Gaetz. Mr. Dorworth is what they wrote in the report. He was deposed, and he confronted with cell phone records showing that he was, in fact, at his residence during the party. So Dorworth, they're saying, is a liar. They say, were you there? No. Oh, what do your cell phone records say? Let me see them. Oh, they do say you were there, so you're a liar. They say, as an attendee at Mr. Dorworth's deposition, the lawyer's like, I was there, idiots. I can assure you that he was never, quote, confronted with any cell phone records at all. Okay, so they wrote in their little report, they're like, we cross-examined him and we impeached his own lies with his own cell phone records. No, you didn't, you liars. Stop pretending like you're on Law and Order or something, okay? You're just dumb congresspeople. These cell phone records were deemed attorney's eyes only at the time of Mr. Dorworth's deposition. Mr. Dorworth has not reviewed the records, nor had any expert capable of reaching the conclusions that you guys drew. You flip through a spreadsheet, you're like, oh, got it, busted. An attorney, during a deposition, made accusations and unsubstantiated statements of fact that you guys addressed to my client, but that's not anything that he was confronted with. I am mortified, he says, that the Committee on Ethics would include such a ridiculous conclusion supported solely by an equally ridiculous premise in its report. He's like, I was there in the room with you. That didn't happen. At this time, I feel the need to remind you of the age-old adage about what happens when we make assumptions. Yeah, you make an ASS out of you and me when you assume. The committee will never be taken seriously if they can't abide by the basic principles of the rules of evidence. They're just like making stuff up. So that never happened. And how's about discrepancy number 3? Now, the committee requested through counsel, they wrote in their little report, that Dorworth clarify his testimony about his whereabouts on July 15th. And his lawyers didn't respond. And so they're hiding things from us. Lawyer says, what? On September 6, 2024, I sent an email to you guys, to committee staff. The email included exculpatory documents that would show that Matt Gaetz is innocent, supporting his client, Dorworth, and Gaetz's public statements about these accusations. Says I even called you too. I engaged in phone and email communications with committee staff, your people, and I'm stunned that the report indicates that I did not. He's like, I wrote it down in my logs. I billed for this. This statement in the report should be retracted as false immediately. And they're smearing the lawyer too. He's like, what? I've been working my butt off. So R. Alex and Rad says, listen, I am disappointed but not surprised by the haphazard and careless manner in which this report was drafted and published. While the damage this sloppy and careless report will do has not yet been quantified, I am asking that you mitigate the harm your reckless decision to publish this report will cause by retracting it and reviewing it for factual accuracy. Signed, yours sincerely, R. Alex Andrade. And that is just one small snippet. You know what's interesting about this? There's this effect called the Gell-Mann amnesia effect. I think Michael Crichton wrote about it. And it's this idea that you can read a newspaper article, or maybe you pick up a newspaper, you're flipping through the magazine, you know very little about all the different domains, foreign policy, like economics, construction, whatever, right? Flipping through this, don't know. But then when you get to your subject matter, you're able to identify something. Wait a minute, I know the law. I'm a lawyer. I know what that means. And that's wrong. So this article's wrong and idiotic. But then what we do is we forget it when we turn the page. So from law, we turn the page and we say, oh, now it's marine biology. And you say, I don't know anything about marine biology. And so some other moron is writing about marine biology and you read it, you're like, well, that all must be true. That's what's happening in this report. People are looking at the report and they're saying, well, it must be true because it came from an ethics committee. This is one example in one area where the report is failing. It's buckling under its own weight of lies. And other people will just now forget about it. Oh, well, they just lied about this one witness. That must mean all the other witnesses are fine. No, they're all now coming into question because the committee cannot be deemed to be truthful. And so a Matt Gaetz ally coming to support Matt Gaetz, and Matt Gaetz continues to fight this smear that they dropped right during the holiday season. They dropped it on 12/23, so Gaetz had no time to respond to any of this. They lost jurisdiction over it, and they still are doing everything they can because they're mad about Kev McCarthy. So we'll continue to keep our eye on this one. Thanks for subscribing and supporting us as we do.